Doug may beat me, but I've been involved since 1970 when Henry was the first physician group in Presbyterian Professional Building 1.
Wow.
Right. We came the same year, Sandra. We came the same year. 50 years ago.
We were young and cute then, Doug. Now we're just cute.
We're just cute. I'll take that. I'll take that.
Well, I think we've got everybody on, and thank you all for joining us today. I think I have the really good fortune of knowing everybody on this call, and it is one of the great joys of my life to know all of you all. But in case there's somebody I don't know, I'm Jay McCauley, the president of Texas Health Resources Foundation. As you can see, I'm coming to you from the Fogelson conference room, which I know all of you have been in. And unfortunately, I'm by myself in here, lonelier than a preacher on payday. But we're thrilled that you could join us today for this virtual way to meet and greet our new hospital president at Texas Health Dallas, Jim Parabeck. If this were any other time, we'd all be together in the same room at a reception where we could mix and mingle with Jim and his wife and share the fellowship with you all that we have grown to treasure so much. But as we all know, this isn't possible this year and this time, but we still want you all to get to know Jim. So we're going to do this virtually, and we're going to try and have a little bit of fun with it along the way. As mentioned before we started, we certainly want to know who all is on the call and a little bit about each of you. So if you haven't already done so, take time to put your name or names if you're a couple and how many years you've been associated with Texas Health Dallas. This will help Jim in his effort to get to know all of you all better. They tell me you can do this by right-clicking on your photo. I'm not an expert in right-clicking, and you can change your name there. But I've had the privilege of working with Jim now for many years. After this evening, you'll see why we all are so pleased at Texas Health that he's now leading Texas Health Dallas. While it's not the same as being together face-to-face, we'll make the best of it. It's great to see all of you all on the call. And even if it has to be virtual, please know that the love we have for you all is exactly the same. And we can't wait until we're able to be together in person again. Just to start off, if we have any difficulties with technology tonight, or if you do out in Zoom land, please call Lonnie Hancock, and her cell number is 214-675-0996. So I'll say that one more time, 214-675-0996. And that's also posted in your chat feature there on your screen. And so we'll work to reconnect you if something happens. But I do hope you enjoy the hour that we have carved out for you to get to know Jim on a little more personal level, as well as hear a bit more about his plans for our wonderful hospital. And couldn't continue tonight without a special thanks to our co-hosts, Bob Ferguson and Gifford Touchstone, for assisting in making this a very special hour together. So I suspect that some of you may already know Jim, but we're going to go ahead and have a little test of that knowledge. And we're going to try to see what you might know already, and possibly on some of these questions, how well you can guess. So we have 6 questions that we're going to pop on the screen. Each will be followed by a multiple choice answer box. All you have to do is click and submit. We'll have about 5 or 6 seconds on each answer. And then Jim will fill in some details on the answers. And for those that are on a phone or a tablet, if you get an error message in the poll, feel free to put your guess directly in the group chat. And unlike my schooling at Texas Tech, if you get the wrong answer, there's not going to be any repercussion. So we hope this helps you get to know Jim a little bit better. So our first question is, Jim's first undergraduate degree was in chemical engineering, finance, chemistry, or underwater dime stacking. So take about 6 or 7 seconds to make your selection and submit. And 3, 2, 1. And there we have it. Looks like the winner is chemistry.
Well, those of you who guessed chemistry are correct. And first of all, I want to say thank you for everyone joining us tonight. I wish we could do this in person. I know several of you, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know all of you in the time coming. But yes, I was a chemistry major. I did not go to Texas Tech. We did not have underwater dime stacking as a major. But I went to Miami of Ohio and graduated there in 1984. And then after that, I'm going to give one of the questions away, but I went to physical therapy school after that at Ohio University. And that's actually where I started my career as a physical therapist. And shortly thereafter, got an MBA at Webster University while I was a full-time student, full-time husband, and at that time, a full-time father, because we had a couple of kids during that time that I was actually getting my master's degree. So Jay, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Jim. And I will just say this, in Lubbock, chemistry was deciding whether to get the chicken fried steak with or without cream gravy. So for our second question tonight, Jim first joined Texas Health in, you can see the choices there, 1999, 2010, 2014, or 2019. Everybody will make their selection there and submit. 3, 2, 1, and our answers. Looks like 2014 is the leader. Jim?
That is correct. We've got some smart folks on the phone. I did come in January of 2014, and I remember my very first week, I got to walk into Mr. Hawthorne's office, and he had announced that he was retiring 1 year from that day. So I came in, and Doug said, I'm out of here, and decided to leave. He did stick around for a year, but Doug brought a gentleman in, Dr. Dan Varga, and Dr. Varga and I had known each other for probably 25 years. I had been working in Louisville, Kentucky, and at the time I had already run a couple of physician group practices, been the president of a couple of hospitals in Louisville, and Dan wanted me to come up here and see what I could do to work with Texas Health Physicians Group. So I came here in 2014 to work with the Physicians Group, and I'll talk a little bit more about what I've done here at Texas Health in just a few minutes.
Well, Jim's tenure has been filled with advancements in care made by Texas Health since he arrived, and he's been a vital part of the leadership provided during that time. So for our third question, and this may be the one that he gave a hint earlier, Jim began his career as a nursing home administrator, an accountant, a licensed physical therapist, or a university dean. So take a few seconds there. And 3, 2, 1, our answers. Licensed physical therapist. Jim.
All right. Yes, you were all paying attention. Yeah, licensed physical therapist. I began my career in doing brain injury therapy, and what I really liked about the rehab environment was you really were working as a team. And that's really been the driving force behind what I've done here in healthcare throughout my career is how do you surround yourself with really good people, and then you can work toward an individual patient's problem, or what I do now is making sure that the team here has the resources they need. I've been very lucky since I've been at Texas Health. I think I've had 6 different titles in the nearly 7 years that I've been here. I did work with Texas Health Physicians Group. Then when we formed the partnership that we have with UT Southwestern, I had a couple of roles working with UT Southwestern to build the physician enterprise with them. When we had the zone leadership structure, I was a zone leader. I think I had a tenure of 32 days as a zone leader here, and we changed the structure again. And I started overseeing the Dallas market, and that really led to my, I'd tell you, love for this hospital and getting to know the people here, what this community needs. And really, the impact that I think I can help the folks here make on this community. I'm just thrilled to be in this role now.
Well, Jim's experience in caring for people shines through in his new role, and some probably comes from his background as a licensed physical therapist, but a lot of it comes straight from his heart. You'll see that during the remainder of our call. So for our fourth question, during COVID-19, Jim was known to visit the hospital at 5 a.m. to connect with the night shift employees before they left for the day. True or false? And then we'll take a couple of seconds to answer that. And 2, 1, and our answer looks like 100%.
That is correct. Every Friday morning, I try to start my day here at the hospital early. It says during COVID-19. Well, we're still in the middle of COVID-19. The numbers are going up. I have some comments on that coming up as well, but it's so important during this time to make sure that you're visible with the staff. When this started, we had a lot of unknowns, and it was pretty scary for a lot of people. Is it safe to come to work? Is it safe to go home? What am I going to take to my family? If I've got an underlying condition, are we going to have enough equipment to keep us safe? And I think the most important thing, and it wasn't just me, it was a lot of in fact, all of the executive team here, we made sure that we were visiting with the staff. And it wasn't just on the nursing floors. The housekeepers had the same issues, and they wanted to know, were they going to be safe, because they were going in and out of these rooms. Our respiratory therapists were in the rooms working with the ventilator patients. And honestly, it's been a bit of a slog. It's a lot of work going on right now. People are working around the clock. They're tired. If I can go up and give them any relief, a pat on the back, a smile, it goes a long way. And I tell you what, I get it back tenfold. It's the best part of my day is when I am rounding. But I tell you, you can't beat visiting the night staff. And I don't know if you've ever been to the hospital at night. It's really a different culture that works at night and a different group of people. And thank God we have them, because it's not easy. There's fewer people at night working. And when you've got a sick patient at night and a sick family, it's a lot of pressure on people. And particularly during the time of COVID, we weren't allowed to have visitors coming just to keep them safe as well. So you really became, there was more of a bond between the staff and the patients. And honestly, me visiting in the middle of the night, I got to see that. And also visiting at 5, that allowed me to see a lot of the shift change too, and the handoffs, and just the special care that our physicians, nursing staff, and all the support they give to each other when they're handing that patient off, because they want to make sure that they did a good job caring for them. The person's well educated on how their care is, and then they're looking forward to having the patient improve while they come back the next day.
Well, thanks, Jim. I was always told as an educator that you should give at least 20% of the questions on a quiz that everyone can get. And I think that question is what Denny Holman and the rest of the powerhouse 67 Mustangs would call a layup. So for our fifth question, Jim's favorite drink for happy hour is Deep Ellum IPA, which we have an example of in your boxes, an old fashioned, Miller Lite, or margarita. This question also may fall in that 20% category, but we'll take a few seconds. So 3, 2, and 1, our answers. Looks like Deep Ellum IPA won the.
It is Deep Ellum IPA. Yeah, I'm from Cleveland, and Cleveland did not have any vineyards around it. And so I developed a taste for beer back then. And then I did move to Louisville, and Kentucky is known for bourbon, but I could never quite develop that taste. So I was just stuck with beer. And the reason Deep Ellum IPA is my wife and I like to travel quite a bit, and we always try to search out a local restaurant and try one of the local beers that they have. And when we first moved to Dallas, we did go down to Deep Ellum part of town and stumbled on the Deep Ellum Brewery. And I can tell you, and I hope you enjoy it as well. Some people don't have a taste for an IPA, but it is my favorite beer, and I hope you enjoy it tonight.
Well, you bet. Thanks, Jim. And so for our sixth question, what is Jim's wife's name? How did they meet? How many years have they been married? How many children do they have? What are their names, ages, and what do they do? So your choices here are, I'd like to phone a friend. Where's my magic 8-ball to help? Or can I ask the audience? But actually, what we've done tonight is to help you with this answer. We've invited an expert in this area who may be able to shed some light on what actually goes on in the Parabeck household.
Hello.
Hi.
I'd like to introduce you to my wife. This is Susan, and she's got some answers for you.
Hi, I'm so thrilled to be here with you all tonight. So Jim and I have known each other since 1980. We kind of ran into each other in at Miami, Ohio, which you had mentioned earlier, where we both went to school. And I have a vague recollection of him opening the door for me during freshman orientation at Miami. And
I have a better remembrance of that. I did do it.
And then as the story goes, I guess there was some discussion between Jim and his dad about maybe asking me out at some point. So that did happen, and we dated a little bit that freshman year, and
That didn't work so well.
but by second semester sophomore year, we became a couple, and I guess the rest is history. We will be celebrating 35 years together in next year, and we have through those years we have had a couple dogs, and we just said goodbye to our Sunny dog last week. We have 2 adult children. Our oldest, Steve, is still living in Louisville, Kentucky. He was a casualty of the pandemic and lost his job in the service industry, but he is he's just tough, and he will do whatever it takes. So as a result, he's back working again. Didn't take him too long to find a job. He's back in the service industry. He's learning to make wood furniture and also working on his real estate license. Our youngest, Dakota, is, and by youngest, I mean our 28-year-old, is finishing up graduate school at University of Iowa in playwriting. So also another area that has been hit pretty hard by the pandemic. So we are really hopeful that in the spring that we will be able to attend the final productions that all of the third-year students do, so that we can see some really amazing work. So yeah, that's anything else that I need to?
You've summed it up really well.
Yep, that's about it from the Parabeck family.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I think that you see the better half definitely holds true when you're talking about the
No question there.
Parabecks. So we hope you've enjoyed getting to know Jim and Susan a little bit better. Before we get on to a view of Jim's vision for Texas Health Dallas, take a moment to refill your refreshments. Maybe enjoy one of Jim's Deep Ellum IPAs if you haven't already, and grab a snack or two. At the conclusion of Jim's thoughts on Texas Health Dallas, we'll have some time to answer some questions from you all. So please place those in the chat box, and we'll get to as many of those as we can when our time ends with Jim's vision here in just a little bit. So I'm going to turn it over to Jim now to discuss his thoughts on Texas Health Dallas.
All right. Thank you, Jay. I'm going to start with and read a few comments to you, but the facility we have here is great. We've got some wonderful core services, and we really have to have the ability to develop those even more. The medical staff is comprised of independent physicians, which is really what the core physician group is here. We also have Texas Health Physician Group physicians that are employed by Texas Health. And new to our campus is the university physicians from UT Southwestern. This really gives us the horsepower to go ahead and really have some signature programs in heart and vascular services, the neurosciences, orthopedics, and women's services. You couple that with our trauma program, we have inpatient rehabilitation, and we're a certified stroke program. We're really in great shape to meet the challenges and the needs of this community.
So Jim, maybe you mentioned a little bit about the medical staff. Can you tell us a little bit of the challenge of managing a diverse medical staff comprised of independent, employed, and university doctors?
Yeah, this sort of started a while back when this was just an independent medical staff and almost all throughout Kentucky. And then certain health systems started to employ some physician groups. And I know Maynard Uten is on the call, and Dr. Uten was one of the members of Texas Health Physicians Group when it started several years ago. At that time, the independent physicians were a little bit on edge and say, wait a minute, Texas Health is going to just have employed physicians. And if you're not employed physicians, are you really going to need us? And Doug Hawthorne helped steer some of that and make sure that those fears were addressed by saying, you know what, when we have a core need to hire physicians, we will do that. Or if the physician has a need to assist them, that's really what the Texas Health Physicians Group has been. So it didn't advance to try to say, you know what, we're going to be a closed system. Actually Baylor is probably more of a closed system. If you're in the Baylor Health Alliance or you're employed by Baylor, they really expect you to just be at Baylor. And they're not as welcoming sometimes to some of the independent physicians. We've always maintained that welcoming position here. So that's one of the differences. When the university doctors came on, that same sort of concern came over the medical staff and how are they going to integrate here? And the key component with that is if whatever physician is, if you're going to be on the medical staff here, the expectation by the medical staff and your fellow physicians is this is your home. You're going to have an office here. We're going to see you. We're going to assist each other. And the patients that we care for are going to be done at this hospital. So that's the challenge, is to make sure that we can keep up from a clinical standpoint with some of those requirements. But the good thing is the university physicians that have come over, they have made a home here. An example of that is our neurosurgery program. We couldn't build a neurosurgery program with Texas Health Physicians Group. The group that we had here longstanding had left and gone to another health system. So we really needed a partner like UT Southwestern to come in and assist us with building that. THPG tried to build that program, and it took three or 4 years, and we got 2 physicians on board. By working with UT Southwestern, they got 4 physicians on board in less than a year. And now we have 7 or 8 neurosurgeons that are on the medical staff from UT Southwestern, with 4 that have a permanent home, and their full-time base is Professional Office Building 3. So I think the key is you need to be transparent with what you're trying to get built with the medical staff, and you need to talk to them. And that's what I try to do, is make sure there's an open door here. This morning I started my day with back-to-back meetings with 2 physicians that we needed to have some discussions, and they know they can come by. And I think that's the key, is just making sure that everybody understands the direction we're going, and try to make sure communication's clear.
So you mentioned a little bit about our facilities, Jim. You want to just tell us what you have discovered so far?
Yeah, the main hospital was built about 60 years ago now, and it's just beginning to show its age a little bit. I'm almost 60, and I can say the same thing, I guess. Sometimes you just need to get retooled a little bit, and you need a little bit of work done. And we've been fortunate that the Hammond Tower came on board several years ago, and we have 2 floors that we can build out there. And then the Perot Tower, or the Perot Women's and Infants Hospital, we are very fortunate that we have got approved about a $56 million renovation that's going to be happening over at Perot as well.
And so I know that all of us on the call are familiar with the excellent service that Margot Perot has delivered since its opening almost 37 years ago. I know my son was born there 31 years ago. My wife receives all her care there, and many people in the area do as well. Can you give us a little bit more in-depth information about the renovations at Perot?
Yeah, we are finalizing the different architectural drawings and getting everything out for bid, and we expect hammers to start flying, so to speak, right around the end of April, beginning of May. What we are going to be doing is down in labor and delivery. It was built 60 years ago. There's been changes in technology, changes in how things are done, and we need to enlarge that space to keep up with demand we have, but also make it more flexible and make it easier for equipment to get in and out, make it easier for patients to come through. After 60 years, you had a hallway here and you take a door out there, and it just doesn't have the flow that we need. So we're basically going to make it more of an open floor plan down in the OR, give more flexibility to our physicians, and really make it easier for the nurses down there to navigate that space. And then up on the floors, we just need to keep up with the times a little bit. And some of this is some cosmetic work to make it look more like a hotel spa type of feel. But that feel also will be more open. It'll be easier for the patients to get around in the space. It'll be easier for the nurses to access the patients, get the babies closer to the moms. All those things are planned during this time. And we've had a lot of competition in this area, and they've made a lot of these advances. And some of this is to keep up with them, but we don't want to keep up with them. We want to do more. And that's why this renovation is so important to get done now.
Well, let's discuss the elephant in the room, the COVID virus, and how THD has responded.
Yeah, I'm really proud of how we have done this. We listen to our physicians. We've got some experts in infectious disease and pulmonology. The nursing staff was well prepared. Texas Health did a great job. Every morning when this started, we had a morning call at 9 a.m. And then shortly after that, we would have our own Texas Health Dallas call just to make sure we could take the information that we were getting from the system and then translate that for our staff. Texas Health did a phenomenal job of making sure we had protective equipment, making sure we had enough ventilators for the patients. We had everything designed, including, we had designs for Hammond 5 and 6 that are shell space right now to actually open those up. And I think if you've seen the news, think back what was going on back in April in New York City, for instance. A friend of mine, Dr. Vargas, now in New York, just outside of New York, they converted their cafeteria into an 80-bed ICU. So we had the space here and the planning that was done that we were able to keep up with all those demands in case we needed them. So far, we have seen about 2,400 positive COVID patients here at the hospital that came through our ED. About 1,000 of those were admitted into the hospital, and about a third of those went into the ICU. And when they go to the ICU, they typically go on a ventilator. We unfortunately have had 24 deaths with COVID. But if you look at our numbers and even adjusted for acuity and everything, our mortality was about 1/3 of what the rest of THR experienced. And THR even led the community. So I can't tell you how proud I am of the team that we had and the work that they did and really the outcomes. To have just 24 deaths in 2,400 positive cases is truly phenomenal. And to have the mortality of just 1/3 what the rest of the community was able to do, it's because we're doing something right here. And the support that you've all given us over the years has translated into that great care as well.
Certainly, the response that you had and Texas Health has been impressive. Do you think that October of 2014 helped prepare you in any way for this current situation?
What happened in it? No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I do remember. That was my first year here, and I actually was working at the system level, but was on the ground here at Dallas for 2 weeks straight to help some of the team here during that time. So behind the scenes, that was my really first exposure to the Dallas culture. And we did learn a lot from that event. And a lot of our staff is the same staff that was here then. And the similarity is we did have a lot of the same staff. The expert leaders that we had in infection control and pulmonology are the same physicians that helped lead us now. And having that, having them still on board here was amazing. Having a lot of the nursing staff, they just basically said, you know, we were the first hospital in Dallas, Fort Worth to have a COVID patient admitted. Unfortunately, and different from Ebola, we kept having more patients come. In the October event, there was just one patient seen throughout the country, and it just happened to be here. So we did learn a lot from that. And, you know, most of the people here just said, you know what, we're ready for this, just bring it on. And again, having the same physician leadership through that was invaluable. And I think that's really why we did so well during this time.
Well, you've spoken very highly of your team. Can you talk a little bit about the mix that makes up your team and what they bring to the table each day?
Yeah, you know, it really starts with the housekeepers. I'm going to start there because when you walk into our facility, it's clean. And, you know, you go up on the floors, and even through all the PPE that starts flying around and the additional waste that happens, because every time you go in some of the rooms, you've got to put a full plastic bodysuit on and a mask and eye protection, and all that stuff is good for one patient and it gets discarded. Our housekeepers have done a great job. And part of the reason I visit the night shift, because if I don't, they see me and they say, how come you haven't come see me in the middle of the night? And the housekeepers really give me a real good sense of what's going on. But you go with that, the ancillary team we have, the physical therapist, respiratory care, radiology, the lab during this time has been phenomenal. Be able to turn around the number of tests and to make it easier to identify a person who doesn't have COVID. So we can go ahead and not use the PPE and have just the concern you may have. Does this person have COVID? Do I need to, you know, how do I protect myself from that? So having that ancillary team turn things around. Talked already about the medical staff. This is the most cohesive medical staff I've ever seen. We have a medical executive committee that meets every month, and the attendance at that is 95%. And the only reason it's not 100% is some people do take a vacation every now and then. But it's not, oh, I have something else I need to go do. They show up for these meetings and they hold each other accountable. And that's phenomenal. And then, you know, lastly, I'll mention the nursing staff. And they are a really incredible group led by just a great leader in Elizabeth Asturi. She was here in the past as the Associate Chief Nursing Officer, trained her up within THR. She went to Allen and then HEB, and we're really fortunate to have her back. And then Dr. Aurora Estevez too. She was here during the October event and is still here. And that, just having that great bench strength in the leadership really helps throughout every one of the disciplines we have.
Sure. Can you talk a little bit about the culture of the staff and what's going on?
Yeah, one of the thing with the culture of the staff, and it's very good. What we're trying to do though is make sure that they're even in better, and that better is how do we get them involved in more things? And I'm convinced that if we get everybody on the same page and getting them involved, some of the differences that we have and some of the biases and some of the racial stress that we all went through with the George Floyd event and all the events that occurred from that, that really impacted our staff a lot. And we needed to make sure that we recognized those differences. And we've got a team of people doing that. But we also need to recognize how well we work together. And we do that extremely well inside of the hospital walls, but we need to break that down. And how do we do that outside of the walls? So we have a diversity action committee here. We have arts and health, and we also have a community engagement team. They tended before to work in their own little silos, and we would celebrate Physical Therapy Month as this month, or Latinx Month was just this past month as well. We would celebrate that, but we didn't bring things together. So we've got a whole new focus on how do we identify whatever month it might be. there's Burmese, and basically, if you have an ethnic group, we've got a month for you here. And we're going to celebrate those by bringing the staff in, having arts and health display their music, display the any paintings that are, or poems, those kind of things we're going to do. And then we're going to get out into that community and do community projects in that. And that way, you know, once we leave, we typically go to our own neighborhoods and we don't see what our other employees and our staff mates are experiencing. This is going to get us out of the community and I think break down some of those walls. And the reason to do that as well is if the team is all rowing in the same direction, we can go a lot further, a lot faster. And that's the whole plan behind getting our teams to really just know each other better on a personal level. So really we can take better care of the patients that we serve.
Can you talk a little bit about community impact and the way that the outreach efforts exist at THD?
Yeah, and you know, Texas Health has done a fabulous job of forming the community impact group, and Texas Health gives each one of our employees eight hours of paid time to go do a community project. Unfortunately, we haven't taken advantage of that as much as we should. Part of what we're trying to do right now is to make sure everybody has the opportunity to use those 8 hours and get out in the community to do that. And we have done some things with our respite program. We've just started a respite program with Austin Street Homeless Shelter. If you're homeless, you tend to use the emergency room as your family doctor. And it's extremely expensive to do it that way. And the amount of overuse of the emergency room because of that is significant. Typically, if you're homeless, you use the emergency room 6 to 12 times a year. Most people tend to use it maybe 1 to 2 times, and most of the people using it 1 to 2 times have insurance. These folks don't. So we really need to find a better way to take care of that. So the respite program that we have with Austin Street is a partnership with them and City Square. We're gonna, when somebody is admitted to the hospital, they may have a broken leg, and it's hard to heal a broken leg when you don't have a home. So we will house them in a special respite program that we have at Austin Street. We have a nurse and a physician that will be on site to take care of them. Once they're rehabilitated, City Square during this entire time will be working with them to try to get them permanent housing. Austin Street works with them on any assistance that they can get to help them pay for housing. So it's really a great public-private partnership that we have, that if we can get that person off the street, in a job, in a home, then it's just better for the whole community. And you know, we're fortunate that Texas Health and the foundation has assisted Dallas with the ability to help Austin Street and City Square.
You bet. And we're certainly glad that you have that as a passion, Jim. Tell us a little bit before we go to Q&A about the opportunities we might have to sort of teach and train here.
Thanks, Jay. We do need to teach. We have a great opportunity. And I always feel like the best way to learn is to teach. And we have staff across the board that is committed to teaching. We need to train the next group of nurses, dietitians, therapists, physicians, and we're doing all that. We also need to invest in leadership development here and get the leaders that we have prepared to take over my job. And it's always great to pass the torch, and we're committed to doing that. So we do have programs in all fields. We do have a new partnership with Conrad High School and the Dallas Independent School District. We've just started that. And that's going to expose college kids to different programs that we have here. And by the time they graduate from high school, they'll have an associate's degree in an allied health field. And we really hope that they then go to college, and you know, they're halfway to getting a bachelor's degree by the time they get out of Conrad High School with that program. And we also have support at the top level. We have an internal medicine residency program that is known throughout the country. We always have a full slate. We have 24 potential or soon-to-be physicians that go through that program. Our partnership with UT Southwest is also allowing us to do specialty training in surgery, heart and vascular services, and neurosurgery. And we certainly want to advance those programs with UT Southwest, and we will in the years to come.
Sure. And our partnership with UT Southwestern is now a couple of years new.
Yeah.
Can you give a little more detail about what's going on with them right now?
Yeah, a lot of people have heard the term JOC, or Joint Operating Company. So Dallas is unique within THR in that we actually have a joint operating company with UT Southwestern. So what that means is the hospital here in Dallas and UT Southwestern hospitals, they operate as basically one income statement. We have separate medical staffs, separate staff, and those types of things. But at the end of the day, the idea is, how do we make sure we don't recruit against each other for workforce? We don't compete against each other for programs. How do we do things here that are unique to THD and let them do things that are unique to UT Southwestern? So in the heart and vascular program, I'd stack our heart and vascular programs against anybody in the city. And UT Southwestern does a few things that are really high level that we don't do. And we won't do heart transplants here. We don't need to. If somebody needs a heart transplant, they'll go to UT Southwestern. But anything short of that we can do here. But there's no sense in us trying to compete against them or to duplicate a transplant program, whether it's kidney, liver, or anything like that, because they do that so well there. So in neurosurgery, they do certain things that we don't do, some deep brain stimulation type things that are really high tech that we don't need to do that here. But with our trauma program, we can do everything else within neurosurgery with who they supplied us with. So the idea is, how do we work better with them, advance research that they're doing, get it to the bedside faster, allow some of our physicians to get to research as well. So, it's really exciting. It is 2 years new. We really need to advance this more, but it takes a little bit of momentum to get two big behemoths to come together and start working closely. But I do meet with Dr. Warner, every month. And in fact, tomorrow we've got a meeting with Barclay Burdan as well. We just all need to get together and make sure we're all, advancing what we need to not duplicate services, but get the best out of both facilities.
Well, thanks for that, Jim. And I feel like we've all benefited from your vision, and look forward to working together as you enact that vision. We've had some questions that have come in, but please, everybody in Zoom land, feel free to add those questions to the chat feature. But I'll start off with a question that came in. So Jim, thanks for the updates on COVID. We're hearing a lot about the impacts of mental health during the pandemic. Can you speak to what you are seeing at the hospital, both staff and patients?
Yeah, thank you. I didn't get a chance to talk about our behavioral health program. THR is one of the only health systems that still has inpatient behavioral health psych beds. So we, here in Dallas, our emergency room gets a lot of those services. And when COVID hit, we shut down all of the visitation that we have. So we had a lot of family members who couldn't see somebody that was on a respirator. And, even seeing somebody that is just, you drop them off at the front door of the emergency room and say, we'll let you know when you can pick them up. That's pretty stressful. So on the patient side, we've done things to try to make it so they can still have contact with families. So we have set up different electronic Zoom meetings. The iPad, we do a lot of FaceTime with devices that we have that we can keep clean and take from one room to the next to allow family members to talk to their loved ones that are in the hospital. For the patients themselves, the nursing staff and all the respiratory therapists have done a great job in playing the music that somebody wants to hear. Even when somebody's on a ventilator, you may not think they can hear things, but we want to make sure that we're still stimulating them. So people would read them a letter that they got from a family member, read them in a text message, put music on for them. So we did those things for the patients and families. For the staff, we've tried to help them as much as we can as well. Our chaplaincy program here is second to none. THR's made a great investment in that, and I tell you, we've leaned on them to see them round in the nursing units and to just pull people alongside in the hallway and do a quick prayer for them. Those kind of things go a long way. We have publicized that we have employee assistance programs. We have set some of our staff up with housing because they were afraid they were going to take something home to a spouse or a parent they may be living with that has an underlying condition. So we've tried to do the best we can, but I think the number one thing we've done is we were present with people. And we went around. When we found out somebody had an issue, we had the chaplain go talk to them. I had a number of times when the chaplains would come see me and say, you know what, you got to get up on the 3rd floor ICU right now. The staff needs to see you. And, you know, having that kind of interchange and interaction really helped. And we've been real fortunate. We haven't had, we think we've had maybe 2 or 3 of our employees get COVID from a patient. And we say we think that because you can't really trace this all the way. We have had a number, unfortunately, that had COVID and brought it in and shared it with their coworkers. And that's why we've done such a good job of screening. We are now screening every employee when they come to the hospital. They have to do a self-assessment. If they have any symptoms, they have to stay home or report to employee health. And we screen everybody's temperature as well, because that's one of the biggest indicators. You may not be symptomatic and feel sick, but your temp could spike a little bit, and that's one of the first signs. So we would send those people home as well. So I think we've done a good job, but it's been a team effort to do that as well.
And this question is not directly related to THD, but what is the, in your opinion, what's the likelihood for the development of a vaccine this year?
I don't believe we're going to see a vaccine by the end of this year. I think we may see some clinical trials of a vaccine by the end of this year. But every indication right now is, you know, we need to do this and get it right. The worst thing we can do is have a vaccine that we think is going to work and we find out that it doesn't. So, you know, you got to trust the FDA on some of this stuff. It takes a long time to get something like this through the process. I think we will fast track it as best we can. You know, this is one where I'm going to kind of lean on Dr. Fauci a little bit and say, you know, let's trust what he says on this piece, because he's up to speed on it as much as anybody can. And we really need to make this, you know, this is just something we've got to get right. So let it take the time that it takes to do. So my best guess is I'm hoping we have one of these next time we have flu season next fall, that we've got a vaccine that we can give at the same time to protect us from both COVID and the flu. But I pray that it's going to be by the end of the year, but you know, my head tells me it's probably going to be another 9 to 12 months from now, unfortunately.
Well, and you talked, another question that says you've talked a little bit about your staff and with great pride. Can you give an example of what their work has meant to you during this year?
You know, I think the best thing is when I have fortunately, knock on wood, we haven't had to use the health system here this year. You know, checkups and some minor things, and we've done that, but unfortunately we're healthy. But I have had friends and colleagues that have used our health system, and you know, I can tell you, I get 100 cards and letters to tell me how great the service is and how well somebody treated them, as opposed to the one that comes in that's a complaint or a concern. But you know, the main thing is when you go to visit a patient, and I visited some of your friends and relatives that are here. And when I do that, I try to also go visit somebody that I don't know, and just to see how well we're taking care of, you know, everybody, and make sure that we're treating them all the same. And, you know, invariably when I go into those rooms, I get thank yous and how nice the nursing staff is, get a lot of compliments on our physicians. You know, it just warms my heart when I know that a friend or family member that is getting care here, and they leave here and they're better, and they say thank you, and they're appreciative of the staff. And that's what gives me great pride.
Well, you might expect that I'd be positive on THD. I had a procedure here during the previous period when things were sort of shut down, and I was very impressed with the attitude the staff had, the way they got me in and out, the way I felt very safe through that. And I feel like I'd be remiss in not mentioning that. You know, everyone on the call knows I'll tell you the truth, but it was really a great experience after something that I dreaded for quite a while. And I know that that comes from the top, making that happen. Another question, the last one we'll have time for, unfortunately, is how can we get volunteers plugged back into the hospital?
Yeah, we miss our volunteers. They're a couple thousand strong. I've met some of them that have, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 hours in. It's just remarkable what they do. Number one is we've got to keep them safe. Most of them are retired, not all, but most of them are retired or of retirement age, and that puts you in a higher category to have complications from COVID. So we've got to be safe first of all. We've done a really good job of protecting our staff, which gives me some hope that we'll be able to go ahead and start opening up for volunteers soon. I think the other thing we're going to start with is how do we go ahead and do some things virtual with our volunteers so they feel connected again. And that's one of the things that we're getting ready to start back up. We want to make sure that they still have a home here, and we need them. But there are some things I think we can have them start doing in a virtual platform until we can get them to come back in. But, just out of over caution, the worst thing that I think could happen is we bring a volunteer in and somehow they get infected with COVID, and, we've got an outcome that we don't want. So we love them. We want them back, but we've got to do it safely. And I'm hoping, by the spring, we'll have them back, but unfortunately, I don't think it'll be before then. So that's why we've got to do things like these Zoom meetings and get them involved. And they can help us in a number of different ways, just in a different platform. And that's what we'll start with.
Well, thank you, Jim. And thank you to Susan as well for sharing your evening with us during what is a very busy time and trying time for you. But we really wanted to take this chance to get to meet and greet you. And it's been wonderful to have you with us. And we're got a little special closeout to our meeting tonight. And that's a toast from a man who needs really, to this audience, no introduction. But it's Bob Ferguson. Bob hails from that East Texas hotbed of tranquility, New Boston. It's been our great good fortune to have Bob as a friend and champion to not only Texas Health Dallas over the years, but our foundation and Texas Health Resources as well. His enduring dedication to us is evident in the many important leadership roles that he's held as a member of Texas Health Dallas Board for 10 years, for the Texas Health Resources Board for 5 years, where he served governance, finance, and strategic planning, and finally as the chair of the Texas Health Resources Board of Trustees. He continues to serve us as a member of Jim's Texas Health Dallas Advisory Group, and we are certainly glad that he is on our team, and he's going to lead us in a toast, he and his lovely wife, Cindy. So take it away, Bob.
Jay, thank you. And Jim, thank you for a great presentation. For an old boy that's used to using a #2 pencil and a chief tablet, learning how to do this, this electricity is something else, man. I tell you what, I'm trying to learn how to do all this Zoom. I hope y'all can hear me, but Jim, I just want to tell you how proud we are, how blessed we are. You're going to be a great leader for us. You already are. And Susan, thank you too for joining us here So we want to take them, and also Gifford and I want to thank everybody, Leanne, for taking today. They're big flag wavers, and they're champions for this hospital. So thank all of you too. And so right now, if you'll join me, if you've got something we can toast with, I'd like to offer a toast to congratulate Jim, Susan, the great leadership team. He's built a leader-full organization. We're truly blessed. Thank you, Jim. Congratulations. Here's a toast to you.
Cheers, Bob.
Cheers.
Thank everybody for being here.
And that about wraps our time up tonight. We
Cheers.
want to thank you for joining us. We know your time is precious, and asking you to sit in front of a computer screen for an hour can be challenging. So we really appreciate it. We hope you enjoyed this call as much as we did, and feel that you have now a more personal connection with Jim and your hospital. For those of you who might have more questions for Jim, didn't get to ask them tonight, he's going to send you a follow-up email tomorrow, and he'll include his cell phone number there, and you can use that to reach him directly. We look forward to hopefully seeing you in person soon, and wish you all the best in the upcoming Halloween weekend. Take care.
Thank you.
If I could real quick too, thank you everybody for joining in. Really enjoyed it. I look forward to meeting you all. And all you need to do is I will send you my cell phone number so you have it. I'll also send you Dorinda's number, and most of you know Dorinda already, my fantastic assistant. Happy to host you all for lunch, a phone call, whatever you need. But certainly if you ever have any needs at the hospital, don't hesitate to call. And again, thank you for all you've done, and a little foreshadowing, hopefully all you're going to do in the future as well. Take care, y'all. Cheers.